going to behave like that, a sensible person just isn't going to listen. Hey guys, so today's Friday, so as always, I'm going to do a Friday rant. But with the election this week, I figured that there'd been enough ranting going on and complaining and all of that sort of stuff. So I decided that I would tell you a story from my past. Don't worry, it's a pretty good rant. Now, I have told this story to many people over the years, and generally it is met by complete disbelief that this could happen to anyone. So, you guys decide for yourself. I can tell you that every single part of this story is absolutely true. So back in '97, when I first came from Australia to the United States, I came to Seattle, Washington. And I'd been living there for a few months, but I hadn't really gotten myself off the ground. I was working for the family, and hence I was not making a lot of money. In fact, it was just above minimum wage at the time. So anyway, I got set up on a blind date. Yes, and I have been in the States for 20 years now. Yeah, 19 years. Still haven't lost the accent. Whatever. So I got set up on this blind date, and I will not mention any names, but I was living in a house with a number of other people in shared housing, and I talked to this girl on the phone and told her that because I just arrived in the States, I hadn't organised myself a car yet. So we agreed that she would come and pick me up. And I know, even back then, it was probably a little weirder, but I was new to the place. So she comes to the door, and I open the door, and I've got to say, all of my housemates were like, "Oh my God, she's gorgeous." I'm just not a super big makeup guy. A little bit of makeup, fine, but she was one of those people that sort of put the makeup on with a trowel. Just way too overdone for me. And without sort of spoiling the night, I knew that right from there, and I'm a very good instant judge of character. I can count on probably 2 fingers how many times I've been wrong about people's character within about 30 seconds to a minute of meeting them. So they all thought that she was a super pretty girl. I thought she was okay. So we hop in the car, and I ask her straight off, is there any sort of food that she isn't into? And she says, no, I'm not into anything, wherever you want to take me. Okay, fine. So I take her down to this beautiful little Thai place in Fremont. Fremont's a cute little part of Seattle, and if you've been there, you've probably been to Fremont. Nice pub, some good music, and cute little Thai place. I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been to Fremont in over a decade. So I take her out, and she sort of looks at the menu, puts it down straight away, and looks at me and says, and asks me to order. Okay. All right, so I do. I'd been there with my uncle before, and I thought it was a terrific little place, great Thai. So I order. I certainly order no spice whatsoever because a lot of people don't like it. And the food comes. The conversation is that sort of conversation where every question I ask her is a yes and no answer, and she asks me nothing. Wants to know nothing about me, I guess, but she just doesn't have anything to say at all. So the food comes, and I try to serve her up, and she says, no, I'll just watch you eat. Okay, so I serve myself food, and I'm a hungry young man, so I start eating, and she just sort of stares around the place and doesn't really want to have anything to do with me, but okay, that's fine. So I'm like, screw it. I eat my food. It's terrific, like it always was at this Thai place. And I really try to get conversation going, but she's having none of it. So when I finish food, I'm like, well, this has been a terrific evening. We should probably just, you know, head home. Home. How about home? How about we just call it even and you take me home? Because, again, I don't have a car. And, again, I'm working for my family, making just over minimum wage. So I have no extra money whatsoever. So, anyway, but I expect to have to pay. Such is the way it goes. That's fine. And she says, oh, you know, there's this bar over on Lake Washington, and I did the, and I'm making her voice sound like she's a total bint. She sort of was a total bint. And the story gets better from here, believe me. Nothing against women. Love women. Been married to one for 17 years. It's terrific. Love women to death. Not this one so much. Excuse me. So she says that she's done the finishes on the walls, and where I'm working for my family, we happen to do finishes on tiles all the time. So there is a connection there. And I think to myself, well, okay, at least you've shown me a little bit of personality. Sure, I'd like to go and see where you have done the work in this bar. So we drive round to Lake Washington and we get to a pretty swanky place. So we drive into this place and we go in and we take a booth and I open the menu, and it's one of those places where, you know, every drink is sort of an umbrella drink and there's not a single drink on the menu that's less than $12. Now, for me now, that's not an issue. Then, that was a problem. I did not actually have a credit card. I had cash, and once it was gone, it was gone. And I was hoping to have that cash for food, for lunch, for dinner, for that sort of thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, I have already paid at the other restaurant, that's fine, as I say. But we get to this new place and we sit down and she orders like an $18 drink. Okay, fine. So I order like a $12 drink and we sit there and we have this drink. But halfway through the drink, and I'm hoping to get some more conversation. Not really. I even ask her about the finishes and she more or less tells me that I wouldn't understand. In fact, at this point, the only piece of information that she has given me is that she makes a lot of money. I have retorted that I do not, but that doesn't seem to matter. I guess I shouldn't make this about money. It just happened to be an issue for me at the time. So, we're sitting down at the bar, sorry, in the booth, and the barman comes over, and he knows her, my blind date. And if I'm sitting here and she's sitting on the other side of the table, he comes over, walks over, ignores me completely, and sits on the table with his butt in my face. So I guess I'm arse face at this point. What the hell? So, but he sits there, makes no apology, and starts talking to my blind date. She does introduce me where he's like, yeah, but continues on. Now he's a strapping young lad, probably a good 6'3", bigger than I am, and I mean, who cares? But then my blind date says to me, look, I've got some business to discuss with this barman. I'm going to go off and do that. You don't mind being here by yourself for a little bit, do you? I mean, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So she takes her drink and off she goes, and I sit there and nurse mine and finish it off. So I'm sitting there. Guess how long I sat there? 45 minutes I sit at that table by myself on a blind date, and you best believe that I did think of pissing off and going and getting a taxi. But I actually am so new to Seattle, I had no idea really where I was, and no idea how much a taxi home would cost. I didn't want to stiff the bar or the establishment. I wanted to pay my way. But I can tell you, after 45 minutes, I was pretty hot under the collar. She comes back finally, and I am literally like doubly, alrighty then, let's get the hell out of here. Okay, come on, ready to go home, take me home, how about we go home, because this sucks balls. But she sits down and she's like, oh, but you know, I really just want to try another one of these cocktails. Okay then, cocktails. Get your cocktail. So she gets one, I get one, mine lands on the table, and I'm just like, boom, pop it back, okay, let's go. But she sits there, says nothing, no conversation still. And finally she finishes it off and she says, how about I get the car around and you take care of the bill and make sure you leave a good tip because these are great people. I'm like, okay. So I get the bill and guess what's on the bill? 4 more drinks from the 45 minutes that she wasn't even with me. I'm like, what? Huh? Okay, so she's gone off with, I don't know if barman had 2 of these drinks or she just had 4 of these drinks. Now I have to get in the car with her and she has to drive. She has potentially had 6 drinks in the hour that we were there. 45 minutes of which, as I say, I wasn't even part of the deal. Had I known, maybe I would have had one for myself. I don't know. So anyway, I pay this and I literally leave about 12.5% tip because it's all I had. Anyway, so I go out to the car and she's waiting in the little valet, and great. So she picks me up and we drive in dead silence back to my house. However, you wouldn't necessarily be familiar with the setup, but I live in Ballard. And there's a main road that goes through there, and if you travel up the main road and you take a right on the main road, my street is the second street in. There's no lights, there's no stop signs, it's just a quick take a right in, up to my house, go up the road, turn left, back onto 7th actually, and actually, no, back onto Leary, and simple process of just, but as we're driving up Leary, she says, you know, it's really hard for me to go into the streets and have to drop you. You don't mind if I drop you on the main street here and just keep on going? At this point, it's pretty much just insult to injury. And I'm like, no, I don't care at all. Sooner I get out of this car, not that I said this, but sooner I get out of this car and get away from this blind date, the better. So I open the door and she drops me on the main street. I only have to walk 2 blocks. It really isn't a big deal. It's only like, you know, 7 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. It's not a big deal. It's the principle that she wouldn't even drive me back to the house. And then as I'm about to close the door, she says, oh, it was a great night. Let's do it again. Give me a call. And I am just like, hell no. Ken didn't say that. I just closed the door very politely and walked off without saying anything. Anyway, that was my blind date. Yes. Never really had anyone never had a situation where I thought that I'd go on a blind date where they would leave the actual date, go and have drinks somewhere else, maybe probably with somebody else, and then come back and make you pay for it. That was pretty amazing. The not having a single bite of dinner was pretty amazing as well. Absolutely no conversation except to tell me that she makes a lot of money, and then never offered to pay a single thing. That's really not a big deal. But anyway, there was some pretty good highlights, and then the icing on the cake wouldn't even drive me back to my house. So I doubt she remembers me at all, and I have a great life with a great wife and a great son, and a pretty good story about really the only blind date I've ever been on in my life. So, if you guys have a great story about a blind date or a rant about that, pop your comments below. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, and that's one of my many stories that I'm sure I will tell over the years. Thanks for listening. I'm the Silverback. This has been my Friday rant / story time, and I'll catch you next week. Thanks, guys.